For tonight, we ask that you would be mindful of a passage in Luke chapter 11, verses 5 through 13. Luke chapter 11, verses 5 through 13. You would do well to read these verses at your leisure, and you would do well to read them multiple times, oftentimes in repeating a verse or two, we pick up something that we did not get the first time. It has often been said, a closed mouth can't be fed. Other times we hear phrases like, the wheel that squeaks the loudest gets the most oil. Or of course people say something simple like, you have not because you ask not, which is actually a quote from the book of James. One of the things that we see here in Luke chapter 11 is Jesus giving instruction to his disciples on how to pray. Many times we are in need of things and we're suffering through life, and perhaps we have not had a healthy prayer life. I want to ask you to look at a word in verse number 8. As Jesus moves from giving instruction on how to pray, he uses an analogy about a man needing some bread at midnight. He goes to his friend's house and says, "Lend me 3 loaves." The friend is asleep, his family is asleep, the door is closed. It's not the most convenient time. And yet, because of their friendship, perhaps because of the care of the man, he does finally agree and gives him the bread. The word I want you to notice in verse number 8, let's read that verse. It says, "I say unto you, though he will not rise and give him, because he is his friend, yet because of his importunity, he will rise and give him as many as he needs." I want you to notice that word importunity. It's not opportunity, it's importunity. That's not a word that we say in our everyday vocabulary, perhaps is not even in our vernacular. I want you to understand what importunity means so that we can really appreciate this parable or this teaching on prayer. The word importunity has a very simple meaning. It means to be shameless. It means to be persistent. It means not to be embarrassed, to be bold. So the idea here is that the man gives this bread to the other man because they're friends, but because this man has no shame in knocking on somebody's door at midnight, waking up the whole house and saying, "I need some bread." The man gives it to him and say, "Look, if you got that much gut and gall, you not embarrassed, you not shamed, you persistent, hey, take the bread." Now, if a mere man will respond to a friend that way, how much more do we think God will give? And how much more do we think God is willing to respond to our needs? That speaks of a relationship between those two men, perhaps neighbors, maybe golfing buddies. But what about our personal relationship with God? Don't we believe that he cares for us? Don't we believe that he has concern and compassion for us? When we think of the word importunity, the Bible is teaching us not to be embarrassed, to be bold. Don't feel shame in asking God for what you need. Let's have confidence in our prayer life. Let's be consistent. The Bible teaches, Hebrews 11:6, that God is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. We should be humble when we come before God because we reverence his person. But we should be bold when we make request of God because we have confidence in his concern for us. Verse 10 mentions 3 things: ask, seek, and knock. Don't be ashamed to be bold in what you ask for. Be shameless in what you seek, and be persistent in knocking. And God, in his time, will answer. This has been another installment of A Few Minutes with the Minister. Make sure you take advantage of the opportunity of importunity from Luke 11, verses 5 through 13. May God bless.